Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, had to take a break on the Monday because, wow, man, this Black Friday, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you guys, they actually did a really good job of Black Friday. I would say that Black Friday hit the spot 80% of the times. Obviously, it's still very, very geared towards people spending a lot of money on packs, but at the same time, there was a really cool grind concept in the menus, right? But it's not completely balanced because some of the game modes don't really provide those non-rare golds and silvers and whatnot to consistently do it through gameplay, which is always a big dream of mine. But I do think that they actually did a pretty decent job. In regards to content for Black Friday, I think it was actually pretty solid. So you guys know me. I'll give credit where credit is due. But for today's video, guys, we're going to be trying out Nick's or Run the Foot Market's 4-4-2 formation. So I saw him playing with this 4-4-2 one time on stream, and I really liked the way that his players were moving. So that's when I asked him like what custom tactics he was using. He let me know, I think it was like a week ago or so, that he did post a video for it. So we're going to go ahead and check it out. So the way that Nick has this team set up, he has it in the 4-4-2 formation with the width on 5 and the depth on 6, right? So right away, already a fun formation to play because the defensive tactics are geared towards you actually playing the game, right? Which is pretty cool. It always depends, right? How much width and how much depth you kind of go with, but whatever works in this game, right? Because you guys know the defense is crazy effective. But yeah, the defense is set up this way: balance 5 width, 6 depth. Offense is on balance, 5 width again, and then 5 for players in the box. So very default oriented stuff, which is perfectly fine. But it's the instructions that he has set on the players that's going to be very important for how this team lines up. So this new team that I created, I think there's like 3 guys that are not first owners, so we're kind of getting there. Obviously, gonna see if I can get a first owner, Ronaldo Sanchez. My boys keep packing this guy like crazy, but as you can see, the team is very well balanced to use in most formations, right? So the way that we have this team set up is that the striker, who is more aggressive oriented, right, high medium, high low work rates, is going to be on the balanced instruction, and then the other player, who's usually on a high work rate, or someone that could potentially be like a Lionel Messi, even a Heung-min Son, like he has in his team, stay central false 9 is going to be the ideal thing there. So I guess what he does with this is that when you have this guy on stay central false 9, he essentially acts like that cam that you really want when you're building up the play, right? So obviously having the right type of player in that position is going to be very ideal. I think Heung-min Son is definitely the perfect example because of what he offers you in the middle of the pitch, right? So that's going to be important for the strikers to test out. The 2 center mids in the team, one has to be attacking and defensive oriented. So Ronaldo Sanchez is obviously perfect for that. And then you need a defensive oriented midfielder on the other side on stay back while attacking cover center. The guys on the sides are going to be on cut inside, get in behind for both players. Ansu Fati's base characteristics actually work really well for that. But as the game progresses, I might have to switch Ansu Fati and Dembele because their off-the-ball movement is a little bit different in regards to base characteristics, so we're going to have to see what's up with that. Cut inside, getting behind is not necessarily fully ideal for someone like Gelson Martins because he does have that 3-star weak foot with poor finishing, and that is something that we're probably going to notice in game from time to time, but I just want to see if he follows that base characteristic well because De Jong is the one that's on stay back while attacking. It's a very interesting formation the way that it's set up because you have your attacking and defensive oriented players in Ronaldo Sanchez and Dembele, right? But then Dembele and Ronaldo Sanchez are also good at attacking. So it kind of adds this variable of randomness in your team, which is, I think, very important. And then for the fullbacks, he has them on stay back while attacking. And I don't think he puts like overlap or anything like that, just stay back while attacking on these guys. So we're going to try the 4-4-2 in game. I'm not necessarily fond of this formation, by the way. So that is a personal preference because a lot of people really like the 4-4-2 this year. But regardless, we're going to get into a game, see how it plays. Don't worry about the chemistry being off for some of the players, except for Depay. Definitely going to give him that +1 because I did just buy them recently, so they're going to obviously gain that with the loyalty, right? So yeah, let's get into a game, see how it plays. Again, guys, formations, it always depends on your opponent that you're playing against. Sometimes it's better to be more narrow than it is more wide. And then in some situations, it's better to be more wide than narrow. It just really depends on how your opponent is playing. As you guys know, I have like the Huge Gorilla's 4-3-1-2 setup with I change the tactics a little bit with it, and then I have Japes' 4-3-3. And in the game, it's always very situational when I switch to each individual formation based off of how my opponent is defending and how he's kind of like going against the counterattack against me, right? Because a lot of people follow that meta of like keeping their 3 or 2 attackers up top, and then they just go for the through ball meta, right? So that type of stuff is very important to take into consideration for sure. So yeah, let's get into a game and see how this team plays. All right, guys, so let's talk about how the formation played in game. So the most obvious thing that I obviously noticed with this team is that you can't really use a player like Gelson Martins on the right side. You definitely can, right? And we're talking about it from a full meta perspective, but the 3-star weak foot and the lack of finishing that this card has will definitely affect you in certain situations where he actually does cut inside and get in behind. Because here's the thing that happens with a formation like this. So let's just say, for instance, you're using someone like Memphis Depay up top in the striker position with his high-low work rates, right? What happens is that with his high-low work rates, he starts to utilize the middle position and the side position. So because Depay would sometimes get in behind and go to the sides, what happens is that your right mid and left mid, if your striker is kind of like positioned around the edges of the 18-yard box on the sides, your left mids and right mids start to cut inside consistently, right? So what happens there is that it actually creates a very good attacking opportunity for you because you start to drag out the left back and the center back as much as possible. So when these guys start to cut inside, you actually find yourself in a very, very nice near post shot angle, right? Because sometimes you can't really shoot across goal because, you know, he's kind of approaching it on the inside with his weaker foots, like I'm explaining it in Gelson Martins terms, right? So someone like Dembele on that right side is mostly ideal with his left foot cutting inside because you do mostly find yourself getting that near post angle because of a few different variables. Because De Jong is on stay back while attacking cover center, he's not really going to be the type of guy that's going to attack in that area, right? So because he's on stay back and your striker is the one that's pushing forward and making that space up top, your right mid will consistently cut inside, especially if their base characteristics is like that. For instance, if you use someone like Mohamed Salah in that right mid position, you guys will have a ton of fun with him because that is a base characteristic that he has. And especially since you are forcing the instructions on the card, he will do that more often. Here's the interesting thing about the cut inside, get in behind instruction for your attackers. Sometimes your players don't actually always cut inside because the striker and the CDM are positioned in the middle consistently. What happens is that they still have the get in behind instruction. So as you guys know, attackers against fullbacks are definitely very, very effective. The pace part of the through balls is really, really nice. So when your players are in the middle and your side players remain on the sides, they make very good runs getting in behind. So even though Gelson Martins doesn't have a good weak foot or, you know, strong foot on the opposite side for that near post angle, he still gets in behind the defense because of that base characteristic of his being an aggressive attacker. He is a high work rated player, so high attacking work rates with, if he had better attacking positioning, he would definitely, you know, utilize the space behind the defense more often, but you guys know I like to use him because he's Portuguese, so it kind of is what it is. So that's one thing that you notice on the right side. Now, what you notice on the left side is kind of different because here's what happens, right? Because one of your strikers is on stay central, false 9, and your other center defensive mid is attacking oriented, if you use someone like Renato Sanchez who attacks and defends, you'll actually often find him in a lot of the attacking areas inside the 18-yard box, outside the 18-yard box, making those oncoming runs. So when you have someone like De Jong on stay back while attacking cover center and you want to build up the play with him, you have someone like Dembele who's not necessarily the most ideal up top in the striker position playing stay central false 9, and we'll explain that further. You have Renato Sanchez constantly making that runs because Dembele starts to act like a midfielder. So Renato Sanchez will always utilize that space pushing forward, right? And he's a very good player at tracking back as well because of his high defensive work rates and pretty decent defensive stats for base card stats, especially with the shadow chemistry style. It just works out perfectly. Here's some interesting things to consider when looking at that left side. On the left side, you don't often notice the cut inside, getting behind as much as you notice it on the right side because of your center mid being on balance instructions, just cover center, and your striker on stay central false 9. So the middle of the pitch becomes very congested. Now, base characteristics of a player for your secondary striker on those instructions, it's very important to have a player that has very, very good attacking AI, right? So someone like Ansu Fati, even on that in that striker position, is really good because his off-the-ball movement is fantastic. In the left mid position, what I noticed Ansu Fati doing more often was getting in behind, but I didn't often find myself in a situation where I was constantly cutting inside as much as I was on the right side. It definitely still happened in that left striker position, but the way that you kind of had to build up the play was a little bit slower depending on where the striker on the left side and where the CDM were in the attacking areas, because like I said, Renato Sanchez is very aggressive. He will definitely push up the pitch as much as he possibly can. So the thing that you notice the most is that the get in behind instruction for the left mid and the right mid, regardless of what the instructions are for the midfielder, they still constantly get in behind, so it works out really, really nicely. The fullbacks on stay back while attacking works perfectly. I have Ferland Mendy and Atal as my fullback, so it works perfectly. I think they're both great in those positions, obviously. Koundé is fantastic. Koscielny, not as much, right? So Koundé is very agile, moves all over the pitch really quickly, and you guys know from his base dribbling stats, base pace, defense, and physical, this card is really good, and obviously Sevilla are going to go into the next round, so he's going to get improved even further, which is amazing. Koscielny has like this characteristic of his that I mentioned to you guys in the review, where he has like this problem with running. His running animation doesn't feel light, and his turns, his acceleration is not ideal. So obviously, meta purposes wise, you want to try to get players like Joe Gomez, Koundé's card, these types of dudes you want to have in the center back position to move with agility, because defensively you are pretty vulnerable in that area. The good thing about the attack is that you have a combination of middle play, but you also have a combination of wide play. In some situations in the game, sometimes I wanted to get Depay on just the get in behind instruction, because I didn't necessarily want him to only stay central, because then you wouldn't be utilizing the cut inside part of the right mid for that specific attacking play, right? So there were moments where get in behind would have been perfect for him because he is a high-low work rate player, but I still would have been able to utilize middle positions because of the way that Gelson and De Jong would have moved in that middle area, right? So that's just the one thing that I would have switched for how this team was moving in general, right? But in the center mid position, De Jong and Renato Sanchez, these types of players are very, very important for defending. You need to have a very good CDM for a formation like this, because it's very susceptible to counterattacks, right? It allows people to kind of like exploit that middle space a lot against you, right? So there has to be a lot of manual defending against these types of guys that really, really go for that through ball, right? So generally speaking, you just need the right players in the right positions, because I had Dembele on stay central false 9. He can definitely play that role really well, but someone like Heung-min Son would be significantly better with his high work rates playing that role, right? Even, I was going to say Ben Yedder, but I don't really like Ben Yedder that much this year. I know people are going to hate me for that, but I'm not a huge fan of him personally. But a Heung-min Son would be really, really perfect in that situation, because playing in that left striker role, yes, Dembele is left-footed. Yes, he can score left-footed goals from you across goal. But Son with his 5-star weak foot is great for cutting inside and utilizing that finesse shot, and also, you know, going on the inside with his left foot and then score with his 5-star weak foot, right? So someone like that with his high work rates on the stay central false 9 instruction would definitely work out really, really nicely. Generally speaking, with this formation, it's a very effective formation to use, but I did personally get bored with it because I didn't really feel that connection with realistic football and how it plays in game. But it is definitely a very effective formation if someone is playing super, super narrow and deep, because of the wide areas that you exploit a lot. And you have to remember, because these guys on the side still have that get in behind instruction, they still make those runs to the side, so you can just go for that driven cross and then just shoot it into the back of the net, right? So the only thing I would have changed because of how this team was formatted is Gelson Martins would have had to been replaced, of course. Depay on getting behind, I think, would have been a little bit better. And also, Dembele would have to be switched for somebody else, a type of player that can really play that stay central false 9 position well, but still utilize empty space well as well. To be honest with you guys, I think Ansu Fati would actually fit that role really nicely. The only problem is that he's a 4-star weak foot on the left side, so for very, very specific shots, not all shots, he wouldn't be able to consistently score like Dembele would on that left foot on the left side. So if it was up to me, it would just be getting behind for the striker on Depay, and I would leave the rest of the team as it is, based off of what I currently have. But that's what I'm going to tell you guys in regards to switches that you may want to potentially make. But it's a fun formation, just not fun for a long time. I like to switch it up a lot to kind of get that realistic football feel for me. Not necessarily because the formation is not realistic, but because like I like to play like Portugal's tactics, for instance, like Japes' 4-3-3, it kind of resonates with me really well because it kind of translates really well in game with how Portugal play in real life. But the 4-4-2 felt basic personally, but a very effective formation to use regardless, especially depending on how your opponent is defending. So yeah, that's Runthefutmarket'S tactics. Be sure to go check out his video down below, guys. It's going to be in the comment section and the bio. And yeah, I'll catch you guys for the next video. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.